Welcome to the Build with Boundaries podcast. My name is Manaz, and this podcast is for high achieving women looking to grow without sacrificing family and life. Discover what's missing and making you frustrated, and what's most important for you to achieve the success that you truly desire. All this without compromising the most important things in your life: your time, your family, your values, and your aspirations. So let's dive into today's topic. Hi, and welcome to another episode on the Build with Boundaries podcast. My name is Manaz Sharif. I'm your host, and I am excited to talk about decisions today. So I have quite a lot to share with you. I have got some notes as well, and I want to start by just really thinking about what decisions are, because we all have to make them. And I think it's how we make them and how we manage them that can really change things. So I want this to be a super helpful episode for you. I feel like decisions are everywhere. They are all around us. We have choices to make and we have decisions to take, whether they are small and whether they are big. There is just an awful lot of them. And especially just now, everybody's definitely feeling a lot of pressure for different reasons and different ways. And that pressure never really goes away. There's always something that kind of presses us to think more about what we want. And I think in these times just now, with everything that's going on, we're certainly, a lot of people are feeling that pressure. Like, what do I really want? And that's a very difficult question. And it can be very hard for us to just answer that. And sometimes it's just easier not to. So let's look at decisions firstly and try and I want to share with you how I view decisions and how I think decisions can feel so empowering. I want you to just take a moment and picture a bonsai tree. So bear with me. I want you to picture a bonsai tree that is beautiful, stunning to you. It is lush green. It has beautifully shaped branches. You can see that it also has flowers and it's blossoming. And the flowers are in your favorite color, like, exactly the color that you love. Now, keep this in mind and let's look at what is so unique about the bonsai tree, because I want to first start with the roots. They have to be really strong. They have to withstand the growth that is to come in the future. And the branches are shaped in such a way that they are designed meticulously. They are pruned. They are intentionally shaped exactly the way that they are. And then those branches have to need to be in the right environment, so that obviously the soil is going to be important in terms of nurturing them and being able to grow strong. And then one day it will lead for it to, might not blossom right away, but the blossoms will appear. And the branches have to allow for that to happen. They have to take the weight. They have to be able to support all of these blossoms. And the roots have to really stabilize everything and make it very, what's the word I'm looking for? I think they have to really hold everything together, because it all starts from the roots. And the way I see it, the reason I'm sharing the bonsai tree with you is, the bonsai tree, think of it like your life. This is your life, and you have the roots, which are the foundations of who you are, and the branches are shaped by all of the decisions that you make. Some are pruned, some are not, some are given that chance and opportunity. Not everything needs to grow. It's very intentional, and I think it just creates something so beautifully unique. None of our lives are the same, and the blossoms are something that will come one day. And I feel like those blossoms are really that inner peace and fulfillment that we feel, because that really depicts what we are trying to do in our life. We want to know ourselves, which is the roots. We want to shape our decisions and our future. And that's the branches, that's the growth, that's the physically what we can see. And then the end result is the blossoms. And that's not always, it's not about success or anything in a particular way, or money, anything specific. It will be different to different people. But ultimately, I think what we're here for is to serve, meet our purpose, be passionate and sharing that with the world. And while we're doing that, on that journey of doing that, we are creating that visual of how our bonsai tree will look. So I think decisions shape our future. That's really what I'm trying to say in all of this. Our decisions are shaping our future, because the decisions that we are making now are going to affect us in the future. And some may be little ones, some might be bigger decisions, but they have, there is this kind of moment of consideration. Now, what I see a lot, and I wanted to talk about, is indecision, because this is that place of feeling stuck and this kind of stickiness and feeling like we are in this mode of not knowing, being unaware. And because we have those conscious thoughts as well, because it does, we know we are being indecisive at some point. And it just feels easier to then not make the decision. And then we think about it some more, and then it feels even easier to not make any decision. And so this thing, we create it into a mountain when it probably wasn't as big a decision as we, started off with. And this is just having this kind of, it's like a snowball. That's what comes to mind. It's like, you create a snowball, then you roll it down the hill where there's snow, and by the end of it, it's huge, right? And that's you getting ready to build your snowman. Well, these indecisions can just get out of control. And the thing is, by the end of it, we're so exhausted by overthinking that decision that we would do anything but want to think about it anymore. So we just decide that we're not going to decide, if that makes sense. So I feel like indecisions are part of us, and they may or may not be affecting you to that extent, but it's being aware and noticing where they happen, because we have a lot of choices. We have a lot of freedom and free will. And when we don't make those decisions, or we're not feeling confident enough to tackle them, and we're just exhausted by all of that, then we're finding it easier to not decide. And that is a bit of a light bulb for me. I'm just thinking, like, where am I in decision? It's something that I really want to work on. Then the other side of decision making is, we make a decision and we're like, yes, that was like so much easier than I thought. It's a yes, I want to do this. And then something happens. And then we look back, what was that decision I made again? And realize that you really didn't want to do that. You really did not want to say yes, but you did. And you've kind of committed yourself to it. It might be that you spoke it out in front of other people. Maybe somebody was asking for help. You raised your hand. Maybe in business, there was an opportunity and you decided, yes, I'm going to do this. Um, an example I'd love to share with you is let's call this client Amy. Um, it's so much easier to not look back at that decision, because what happened with her was that she had a collaboration opportunity, and this was long before she worked with me. So it was something she was already committed to. And as it was getting closer and closer to the time frame of when this opportunity, this thing was going to, I think it was like a course or something that she was going to create with someone, as it came closer and closer to the time that material was needed from her, she was feeling more and more pressure. And she was really feeling that I don't want to do this. My heart's not in it. But I have committed to it. And, as conscientious and someone with integrity, she never thought that that was a decision that she had made before and that she could do anything about it now, because she'd already committed, she'd already said, this is what I was doing. And it wasn't until we talked about it and we talked through this, and we really had to work through that to understand what it was and what was not feeling aligned for her and why that was, and also understand the situation of what had actually happened. Because if something's already happened that is making you feel a certain way and you don't want that to happen again, we really need to understand what happened in the first place. So she felt at the time that it was it made sense, it was a good opportunity, and for what information she had, she made the decision. Now it turns out I don't think she had enough information to base her decision, so she was probably a little bit rushed in making that. And then um she didn't know the person that well either. So what transpired is, over months and months, when she was starting to understand a bit more, she was actually having her own doubts about how um, effective this person was, and how, even like, she didn't even know what the plans were fully in terms of their collaboration. So she'd sort of jumped in very quickly and said yes. So it made complete sense that now that she had said that, she didn't want to go back on her word. And what I want to share is that when we were working through this, she realized so strongly that she did not want to do this. She was dreading having to record all of this stuff. She did not have time in her diary, because of lots of other things going on in her business. She didn't want to allocate it to something that was unknown. And it wasn't like she was getting paid for this at all. She was creating something up front. So it just didn't make much sense from our conversation to carry on with it. So we had to work out, that there was a boundary that was needed here. And how can she tackle it in a way that feels like she is working ethically, and she's, holding up her values too, and being of integrity, because she'd already said yes, so that she didn't feel any different afterwards. And she didn't want to be the one saying, I've changed my mind. So we had to work through that, and it definitely took some time. And really, that acceptance of the decision I took was not right for me. Like, that's where it has to start. And it's very difficult, but we regret things, and we can also have other emotions that are sometimes not that obvious, because it's like having this internal chatter or thoughts that you're not quite aware of. And it's really things like feeling bad about that decision because you finally made a decision. Like it really felt good at the time, and all of a sudden it's not. That means it's my fault. It's like this blame and shame. Um, and then feeling guilty for it. And also, I think another thing that happens with decisions massively is that regardless of whether we get them right or wrong, um, we can really drain a lot of our energy. We can be exhausted because of that process of making the decision. So whether you were in an indecision and then you decided you were not going to make the decision, that's still a decision taken, right? Um, and with the making the decisions and regretting them later, that in itself really lowers our confidence, like in ourself, because it's like we're giving ourselves another, oh, here we go again. I've done this again. Why do I keep doing this? All those kind of thoughts. I knew I should have taken more time. I knew this that I'm not the right person to make this decision. I knew that I couldn't do this. Like it's so negative, and whether we are consciously aware or not, there's going to be effects of whatever we're going through, and accepting that it's something we need to work on, even though we may not be aware of it. That's tricky, and that is really hard. But decisions are shaping us. So whether we make the decision or whether we don't, they're affecting us. Like we have different paths and opportunities, and we are choosing. It's a choice. And it should be an empowering choice that helps us. But in effect, what it can do is it can really affect and sort of damage our self-worth. It can damage the relationship that we have with ourselves. And I see that a lot because when we feel guilty about something, it doesn't go away. It's like we have this particular filing system in our brain that will file it away and say, yes, I knew I was right. Here's another one. And let's add some evidence onto this category here. And whenever your brain gets that chance to take that back out the filing cabinet, it'll be like, here's the 5 examples that you just did this year. And that's not a good way to live because we are not living our best selves. We are not feeling confident in the moment. We don't even know how to handle things, and nobody told us how to make decisions. So the third thing that I wanted to share was, and this is perhaps even more powerful than the other two, in some ways, it depends how you take it. But here's my take on, here's a question to ask yourself, right? What decisions are we not making simply because they're not even something that we have deemed important enough? Now, there will be a lot of things going on in your life, whether that's at home or you're working from home and trying to juggle everything. It's kids, it's family, it's, all the priorities that you have. And there will be decisions in there that perhaps you are not bringing to your awareness properly, and not prioritizing them, not thinking about them, because nobody's really asked you to make the decision, and it's not like you're being forced to. But what if we had these decisions that are kind of silently sitting there just waiting for us? I wonder if this person's going to think about me. What if those things that we're neglecting would actually help us with probably the things that we're struggling with the most? Because that's probably the reason that we keep putting it back. Like, I don't have time to do this. I don't have the capacity to do this. We can put those decisions off or feel like they're not really a decision I need to take now. So we've almost like put this pause button on, but we're not even seeing that we have. And I think that's the hardest bit, because there will be lots of decisions that you are able to make, but you're not seeing that they are decisions that you can make. So there's another example where indecisions and just sort of not making the decision. So that can be more consciously because we know there are things that we have to do. We have to change things, right? But I don't know what, so I'm just going to carry on. I'm too busy. I've not got enough time. They're usually the biggest reasons. And the thing is that the reason that you could be being too busy, is it because you're too busy? Or is it because you've not made the right decisions? It's because you have not made a decision to create the boundaries that you need. Linking it back to boundaries, this works so well because often it's the things that we cannot see that will be the most helpful and the most beneficial. And these are the types of struggles that we can have day to day. And some are in our awareness, and some it's almost like brushing them off without realizing it, because we just go into this autopilot of what we currently have now, and this has to continue. So in effect, we've made a decision to continue with that, but we're not seeing that as a decision because we're just carrying on. So it feels harder to make the decision to change something because it feels like you're proactively having to say, I'm going to change this. And the pressure that we're feeling is just adding more and more. Nobody's pressure disappears with nothing happening and it just itself goes away. We have to actively do something. So I guess the question that comes back to this is, what are we going to do about that? Because we are living in a world where we are constantly making decisions, whether that's for our children, whether that's remembering stuff, whether it's constantly just being on this, living on autopilot and doing things. But until we don't pause and really work out what it is that we need, what it is that we need to change, what it is that we're struggling with that we want to give a priority to, then we can't reduce the pressure. And we only see the solutions when we first see the problem, right? And all of this means that we're not able to live presently in the moment. We're not able to fully immerse ourselves in today, in the here and now, and be happy in the moment. There's so much joy and pleasure to have from being okay right now and being happy, because it's a choice we make. And I understand there's always things that go on, things that are difficult to handle. And I know myself, life happens. There is no pause button. And it makes sense that there are times when we struggle and we just think we don't have the capacity even more. But yet those are the times that when we actually want to be able to lean on somebody even more so, because it would actually make a bigger impact on us. And when it affects us, it affects, all of us. It's our mental, our emotional state, our physical well-being. Everything is together. And decision making is huge. Like, we can have decision fatigue and not even realize that we have it. Because let me give you an example. Like, for example, you've gone away, you're going away for a long weekend. You pack your bags and you're away for like 3 days, and you're so looking forward to this because it's been so long since you took time off. And you pack your bags and you leave. And once you leave, you just feel this sigh, this pressure coming off, because for 3 days, you do not have to worry about the usual stuff that is on your list. Or it could be, stocking up the fridge, doing the shopping. What is going to be for dinner? What is my plan for this week? What have I forgotten that I need to remind my kids about? who needs me for what, when, and, like this whole kind of rat race that we end up calling life, we get a chance to just get away from that. And when we do, we feel this, we don't have to make the decisions for a few days. Someone else is taking care of where I'm sleeping, tidying up my room, if you're living in a hotel, cooking for me, all that kind of stuff. And you don't know that you were so tired until you don't have the decisions to make for a short time. Life, obviously, we're going to have to come back to our own life. But when we are away, we can certainly feel that temperature dropping. And there's a reason for that because we're holding on to so much stuff that we cannot possibly give ourselves credit for because we always look, we're negatively wired anyway, to look at the things that we haven't done. We're always looking at the decisions we haven't made, the things that we did not get right. How many times have we got the decisions right? How many times and how much evidence do we have that we are more than capable and that we have that capacity? I want to share an example about another client that comes to mind. So let's call her Sarah. She was dealing with a lot of decisions, very busy household, of running a business, two children, both on the spectrum as well. So she was having to deal with a lot of stuff. They were teenagers too. So lots of things that were adding a lot of pressure on her to, well, internally, she wanted to be there for her family, just like a lot of mums do. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But every time she was making decisions with her parenting, so it could be just little things with her girls, it could be bigger things, like always feeling like she's not got it right, she's not good enough, she's not doing the best that she can, always doubting herself with the decisions. And we did some deep work. We went through her human design chart. She really got to see all of her strengths in a really beautiful way. And that really helped to empower her to understand, firstly, what her strengths were, like who she really is. And from the outside, from a different lens, a different perspective, what do people see in her? And to shine a light on her and really celebrate that of what her gifts were, and to understand then how she can embrace them more and more rather than, feeling like she was quite uncertain. So by the end of our time working, it was so lovely to see this flip because she was a different person by the end, and the way that she handled decisions was probably one of the biggest changes that I saw in her. And I think that she recognized herself, that she was coming at decisions from an empowering place because she understood herself. So this goes back to that relationship with yourself. Like all these things affect us. And when we actually prioritize us to understand ourselves in a way that nobody has ever been able to share with us before, then that is empowering in itself because you go through this phase of acceptance, of really seeing yourself in a different light. And that was so beautiful in this client. And then with that, the acceptance and understanding what her key strengths were and trying to really lean into that and fully appreciate them and fully celebrate them, she was able to change in terms of her confidence. It just changed massively. Like by the end, she was making confident decisions. She still had situations going on. She was still a normal family where things are happening all of the time. But the way that she handled those was very different than she would have done before we began working together. And she recognized this, that if the same situation had happened before, she would have reacted differently. And this is it, we're living in this kind of reactive state where we don't realize that we don't need to make the decision right away sometimes. Sometimes it's not a decision for us to take. Maybe like somebody else can put their hand up, right? Maybe we're just jumping in too quick. Maybe we are being hasty with the decision. maybe we do not understand our decision-making style, because each and every one of us has our own unique way of making decisions. And this comes through in our human design chart. And this is something that I absolutely love sharing, because I think decision making is like the core element of how we live our life, because we always have things that we have to make decisions on. And when you're able to see that change in people, and like this client, the relationship she had with herself was very different. She was way more confident, way more courage to take the steps and the action. And then she stopped looking back, because have you ever noticed when you make a decision and then it's like you spend most of the time thinking about that decision you've already made? So it's draining you even more of your resources. It's draining you of your time and your energy, and your focus. And it's not helpful, because we're staying in this state of uncertainty. Whereas even if you get the decision wrong, but you move forward, you are actually moving forward, right? Why are we in this habit of continually looking back? These are the types of things that we can, they're all habits. There's a lot of things that we can become habitual over. And that's why it's so important to address them and be very intentional with how we make decisions. So if you are thinking that you don't have decisions to make that are big, we're shaping, just think back to that bonsai tree. Everything that we are doing, we are like pruning that bonsai tree. We're deciding that path is not the way we want to go. We don't want to grow that branch, so we prune it, and we decide on the direction, on the shape, on the, but there's so much control that we do have. And if we all focused on the area that we can control more, we can definitely have more peaceful lives and more fulfilling, and just feel happier day to day and moment to moment. And that is exactly what I want for you. So I don't want you to feel like an analogy that comes to mind is that you're stuck in the elevator. You don't even know there are buttons there to press. So you go into this elevator and you just hope and pray that it will move. And then somebody else walks in and somebody else presses the button. They decide where you're going. And then when the elevator moves and gets to whatever floor they have chosen, you have a choice. Like, are you going to come out to somewhere where you didn't want to be in the first place? Or are you going to stay in there and try again? And it's like we have a choice, and we need to take control of those buttons. What level do we want to go at? And how can we confidently show up there? And how can we not hide and making those decisions, or to moving on from the decisions that we've made in the past? So if you don't want to stay in that elevator, and you want to know what your strategy would be for making decisions, and what your human design chart tells you about you, you're beautiful in every shape and form. And I think I would like to say you are beautifully imperfect, and it is our imperfections that make us who we are, and that is what differentiates us from everybody else. And human design, if you're not familiar with it, is the science of differentiation. And this is exactly what it helps with. It shows us how we are different. And that is something that we need more of, because we need to stand out in a, sea of, blue fish. We want to be the one that's orange. And in life and day, we want to be embracing that uniqueness in every shape or form, because that is where we will shine and our people will see us. So I want to leave this episode here with that thought. And if you are interested to dive in deeper into human design, and you perhaps not even heard about it before, it's not important, and you don't need to know anything. Simply just get in touch with me on Instagram or LinkedIn. My links are in the show notes or description if you're watching on YouTube. And just send me a DM and let me know that you are interested. I have got a spotlight session, which is completely free, where you get to share one challenge and I get to shine the light on one area of your chart, and they have been transformational. They have been so powerful. It is amazing and a joy to do these. So just send me a DM with the word spotlight and we can talk about getting that sorted for you. So I'm going to leave you now with those thoughts on decisions. Where are you making decisions? Where are you not making decisions? And where are you in indecision? Those are the 3 areas that we've covered today. I hope this episode has been really helpful. If you did find it helpful, please do share it with somebody who you know would appreciate this. We need to definitely be sharing more of the things that help us. And if it's helped you, I'm sure it will help your friends as well. So take care and stay beautifully imperfect as you are. You are designed beautifully imperfect. I want to leave you with that thought. This podcast is for you, so reach out and let me know what you thought about this episode. You can find me on LinkedIn and Instagram, where I also share valuable content. If you enjoyed this episode, then hit the subscribe or follow button on your favourite podcasting platform so you never miss another episode. I can't wait for you to join me for the next episode of the Build with Boundaries podcast.